She texts you at 2:17 a.m. after 6 months of silence. You think you finally won. You actually lost. You think if she starts showing up different, texting out of nowhere, watching all your stories, teasing the door open, it means she finally chose you. But most of the time, it means something else entirely. It means need is speaking before honesty does. When a woman hasn't felt wanted in a long time, she doesn't ask for connection like an adult. She hunts for attention first. Not always with words. Sometimes with energy. Sometimes with mixed signals. Sometimes with timing so perfect it feels like fate. And if you don't know what you're really looking at, you'll call it chemistry when it's really hunger. You'll call it destiny when it's really just loneliness with makeup on. If you need truth that hits harder than comfort, stick around. Because some days you don't need more motivation. You need a reminder. A reminder to see clearly. A reminder not to hand your self-respect to the first person who makes you feel chosen. A reminder that attention is not intimacy, and attraction is not alignment. Here's what it really means. When she hasn't been intimate in a long time, the attention she sends your way, it's less about you and more about what you represent. Relief. Validation. Excitement. Emotional stimulation. The feeling of being desired again. That doesn't make her evil. It makes her human. But if you're weak for fantasy, you'll take a human moment and turn it into a private delusion. That's where men lose themselves. The misconception is simple. You think, she wants me, so I should move fast. Wrong. The hard truth is this. Being wanted in a moment is not the same as being valued in reality. One is heat, the other is structure. One is impulse, the other is intention. One disappears when the mood changes. The other stays when life gets inconvenient. If you can't tell the difference, you'll keep confusing access with meaning. Why does it happen? Because deprivation creates distortion. When somebody goes a long time without touch, affection, closeness, desire starts looking for a target, not a partner. A target. Someone safe enough to approach, available enough to engage, responsive enough to feed the loop. That's not always conscious. A lot of the time she's not sitting there plotting. She's simply feeling the ache of disconnection and moving toward whatever makes her feel alive again. That's called compensation. That's called emotional leakage. That's called reaching for medicine without asking what the wound really is. And you know what weak men do with that? They rush in like a volunteer firefighter to a blaze they didn't start. They overextend. They overread. They overinvest. They start performing. They start proving. They start negotiating against themselves for a prize nobody actually offered. You stop thinking. You stop observing. You stop leading your own life. One signal from her becomes 10 stories in your head. One late-night message becomes a future. One flirt becomes a fantasy. That's not discernment. That's starvation. You have to understand something most men never learn. Attention is cheapest when it's driven by emptiness. It feels intense because it's fueled by lack, not because it's built on substance. And lack creates urgency. Urgency creates projection. Projection creates bad decisions. Suddenly you're saying yes to things your standards should have rejected in silence. Suddenly you're available at all hours. Suddenly your peace is tied to whether she responds. That's not desire under control. That's dependency forming in real time. And what does it cost you? It costs you your center. It costs you your pace. It costs you the ability to see what's actually happening instead of what you hope is happening. You lose sleep. You lose focus. You lose the edge in your work. You lose the steadiness in your spirit. A man who is building starts waiting. A man who had direction starts checking his phone. A man who had standards starts making exceptions. That is expensive. More expensive than money. It costs identity. Because when you live for external attention, you train yourself to abandon yourself. Slowly at first, then all at once. So reframe it. If she starts doing what women often do when they want attention after a long period of deprivation, subtle flirting, random check-ins, sudden warmth, heightened curiosity, strategic presence, disappearing and reappearing. Do not ask, how do I lock this down? Ask, what is this actually revealing? Is it clarity or craving? Is it consistency or impulse? Is it respect or temporary relief-seeking? You don't need to punish her. You don't need to judge her. You don't need to act bitter, cold, or theatrical. You just need to stop being so easy to move. That's called self-command. That's called masculine composure. That's called being stronger than your appetite. The man you need to become is not the loudest man in the room. He's not the most reactive. He's not the man who mistakes detachment for discipline. He is grounded. He is awake. He is not seduced by attention because he has purpose greater than stimulation. He doesn't rush when energy changes around him. He watches. He listens. He notices patterns. He can enjoy a woman's warmth without kneeling to it. He can appreciate beauty without becoming governed by it. He can feel desire without surrendering leadership of his mind. He is the man who does not need the moment to mean more than it means. He has boundaries without speeches, standards without arrogance, calm without passivity. When she reaches for his attention, he does not instantly hand over his time, his focus, his emotional availability, and his schedule. He lets reality speak. He lets actions repeat. He lets consistency prove itself. He is not playing games. He is refusing delusion. Big difference. Because a man with self-respect knows this. If something is real, it can survive clarity. If something is only fueled by tension, boredom, loneliness, or deprivation, it will collapse the moment you stop feeding it fantasy. So what do? You slow down immediately. Not because you're scared, because you're disciplined. You stop rushing to interpret every signal as a confession. You stop rewarding inconsistency with full access. You stop acting like attention from someone else should rearrange the architecture of your life. You keep your schedule. You keep your training. You keep your standards. You keep your mission in front of your mood. Then you observe. Does she communicate directly or only when she needs a hit of attention? Does she create peace or only excitement? Does she show up in daylight or only in emotional weather? Does she respect your pace or try to hijack it? Those questions matter. Those answers matter more. Then you redirect. If the interaction is real, move it toward clarity, not endless flirting, not addictive ambiguity. Clarity. Ask better questions. Set cleaner terms. Match energy without overextending. If she wants your attention, fine. But attention is not the reward. Access is earned through alignment. Time is earned through consistency. Emotional closeness is earned through honesty. That's called order. That's called standards. That's called not letting chaos dress itself up as romance. And if what she's offering is only intermittent heat, then step back with dignity. No speech, no rage, no wounded performance. Just less access, less availability, less internal investment. You don't need to shut down your heart. You need to stop putting it on layaway. For people who are still trying to figure out whether they want comfort, chemistry, or commitment. Hear me clearly. You are not here to become harder. You are here to become clearer. That matters. Because some men hear messages like this and turn into stone. They become cynical, suspicious. They start treating every woman like an opponent. That is not strength. That's unhealed fear, wearing armor. The goal is not to become closed. The goal is to become clean. Clean judgment. Clean standards. Clean energy. No chasing. No fantasizing. No emotional volunteering. When you become that man, strange things happen. You stop being hypnotized by inconsistency. You stop confusing being selected with being respected. You stop trying to rescue people from their own emptiness by offering pieces of yourself. And because you stop leaking desperation, you become more attractive anyway. Not because you're performing confidence, but because you're finally inhabiting it. That's the irony. The more you need attention, the weaker you become. The less you need it, the more powerfully you carry yourself. Presence versus pleading. Reality versus fantasy. Self-command versus self-betrayal. So if she's trying to get your attention because something in her has been deprived for too long, understand it for what it is. A signal, not a verdict. A moment, not a promise. You can meet it with maturity. You can respond with steadiness. You can let her be human without making yourself foolish. And if there is something real there, good. Let it become real the right way. Through honesty. Through consistency. Through mutual respect. Not through confusion, urgency, and emotional smoke. But if it is not real, then let it pass, without taking part of you with it. That is the lesson most men learn too late. You do not need to be the man who gets attention. You need to be the man who knows what to do with it. Anyone can be flattered. Not everyone can stay centered. Anyone can be chosen for a night. Not everyone can choose themselves for a lifetime. Choose yourself. Choose the version of you that does not break formation because somebody suddenly looked your way. Choose the version of you that does not abandon his code for temporary validation. Choose the version of you that knows desire is powerful, but direction is power. Choose the version of you that can feel deeply and still think clearly. Because in the end, you are not waiting for someone else to make you valuable. You are not hoping someone else's attention will confirm your worth. You are not trying to be saved by chemistry. You are building a life, a mind, a body, and a spirit that do not collapse under temptation. You are the answer. And once you understand that, attention stops being a trap and starts becoming a test you know how to pass. If you want more truth like this, more clarity, more reminders that keep your mind strong when emotion gets loud, stay here. This is for the men rebuilding themselves in silence.